Jules, I just want to thank you for joining us as you kind of get ready here. This is going to be a really good webinar for everyone. Um, I think anybody here on the webinar, if you're running your business and it's really successful, then you have good problems to have, right? Too much work to go around, labor costs are too high, stuff like that. If you're still trying to get your business off the ground, you have those issues where you're overwhelmed, and you might understand the business model that you're working to get. You might understand the internet marketing business model, and you might um, just not have enough time to do it, right? You still got to keep your day job. You can't lose the house over this. And so no matter where you are in your whole business life cycle or your business adventure, there's going to be some good stuff here that we'll share this evening. And I thought maybe just to introduce Jules, give you guys a little context of why I asked her to talk with everyone tonight. I want to share a little bit of my own experience, building my business. And a few years ago, I live in a college town, and everyone hears that you should have interns, right? Oh, you have to get an intern, right? And it's not just to get coffee or anything like that, but the idea is you can get this high labor and stuff like that, high skilled labor. And I thought that was a pretty good idea at first. But then I had this guy, he comes to work drunk. I mean, one day I walk out there wondering what he's doing because I hear my guitar being played, and instead of doing whatever I'd asked him to do on the computer, he's out there playing my guitar and like, hey, isn't this cool? And so I'm thinking, well, interns in theory sound like a pretty great idea, but clearly whatever I'm doing is wrong. And a couple years ago, I actually met Jules, and it was pretty cool because we were working on a project together, and lo and behold, this lady named Molly shows up one day, and she was an intern. And so I'm kind of thinking back, I'm like, uh-oh, here we go again, here goes the intern thing. And the experience was much, much different, though. This girl ended up being just a rock star. I mean, we built a business around her, essentially. And so I started kind of asking Jules a few questions here, and what I found out was really, really exciting, because she had actually, she knew what she was doing in this space a lot more than I did, let's put it that way, and a lot more, she's going to share some of this with you guys. And she had only paid out 10% in labor of what she had created, which was $1 million business in her first year. And so she created this $1 million business with 5 employees and 15 interns. And out of that $1 million, 10% was paid in labor. And so any of these business owners that are hearing this tonight, those sound like pretty good numbers to me. I'm not sure what kind of numbers you're used to, but I'm guessing those are better than what you're used to. In her second year, a large percentage, a full third of those turned into employees, and then she actually had this entire system built around this whole thing. And so if I keep going, I'm probably going to botch it. So Jules, welcome to the webinar. Thanks for sharing this information with everyone, and I'm going to let you just take it away.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much, Wally. It's so great to be here with you this evening, and thank you everyone that is tuning into tonight's webinar. I know your time is very valuable, so I want to make sure that I can deliver you the most value as possible by you being here this evening. So with that, being said, Wally, thanks so much for the introduction. Tonight, I'm going to share with you, exactly what Wally was talking about, but specifically how to get up to $100,000 of free outsourcing a year. So yes, you heard that right, $100,000 of free outsourcing a year, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do this in 3 simple steps. So I want you to take a moment and just focus in on that picture right there. There's the guy there, he's screaming at the computer, he's got the papers flying, he's got all this stuff in his head, and just put yourself in that picture for just a moment. That was me about 4 years ago, and I'm sure some of you joining us this evening can definitely relate to that. I was working 16-hour days, hustling hard, trying to make everything happen. I thought starting a business, entrepreneurship would be easy, and it just frankly it wasn't. It was really hard and really confronting when I got in there. And I remember just feeling overwhelmed, stressed, and just really at ends with everything. So if you're joining in tonight and that picture looks vaguely familiar, you have come to the right place. So we're going to go ahead and dive right in. This webinar is for you if you are experiencing overwhelm doing too many tedious tasks. Like I shared with that picture there, how many of you listening are just frankly overwhelmed in your business? You either have had a business for a long time, or maybe you're just starting out and you find yourself doing everything from the sales to the marketing to the copy to all the various different elements. This webinar is for you if you're tired of hiring and training new talent over and over again. I remember that was just frustrating for me, to always having to be searching for good people and then to have to pay a lot to keep them around, or to have people that didn't work out so well to have to keep resourcing, and that would just expend a lot of effort. This webinar is for you if you want to scale your business but don't have the money to outsource. I remember this was a limiting belief of mine. I was like, how can I hire employees if I don't have money coming in to pay them? Well, if you are in this position, I'm going to show you exactly how I took my business to $1 million that first year by using this model. This is for you also if you're overpaying for quality people who always seem to quit. There's always that age-old phrase that good people are going to cost good money. And frankly, that isn't true anymore. And there's actually a large shift going on with what's happening with people going through college and what employers are looking for. And I'm going to share a little bit more about that later. But that actually isn't the case so much anymore. And this is webinars for you if you want to add tens of thousands of dollars to your bottom line. Like Wally shared, I was able to use this model to make my labor budget about 10%. And I know some of you business owners, you might be looking at 30, 40, I've even heard up to 50%, in terms of that bottom line. So if you are in any of those camps this evening, you have found the right place, and I'm so excited to show you this new strategy so that you're able to get some freedom and peace of mind around your business. So who am I? What led me to this webinar? 3 years ago, I started a publishing company, and we specialize, in the digital book world, how to make books a bestseller on the Amazon Kindle market. I wanted to scale, but I couldn't afford to outsource. I had all these ideas, I had all the visions, I was frustrated, I was overwhelmed, and I was stuck. And one day I was sitting in my office, just like that guy I showed you at the beginning of the screen, papers flying in the air, and I was saying to myself, there's got to be another way. My vision was clear, I knew where I wanted to go with the business, but I just didn't have the resources, the money, or the time to make it happen. So I remember, looking back into college, I remember being an intern and taking on various different internships. And I had this crazy idea, and I thought to myself, interns, could there be something more here? So with that idea, the next day I decided to put an ad up, at the local campus, had no idea what I was doing. And within 3 hours, I had over 30 replies of people wanting to come work and wanting to intern for the company. I was astonished. I couldn't believe that people right off the bat were so intrigued to be a part of this. So from there, I was able to actually go on and recruit some interns, and within a year, I scaled my publishing company to do $1.2 million in revenue with just 5 employees and 15 interns. So after that year, we went on to do, much larger numbers, but I had business owners, colleagues, friends begging me to share, Jules, they're like, how did you do this? And so, Wally and I got talking, and for the first time, I want to share this with you this evening, what this strategy looks like and how I went about making it happen. So like I said, launched the $1 million business within the first year, was able to take 5 employees, 15 interns, and the biggest thing, paying out 10% in labor. I'm sure those of you listening tonight go crazy over paying for labor. And yes, great people make the business work, but at the same time, you have got to watch your bottom line as well, because if you're not making money, it's hard for you to do the things that you love and stay in touch with why you're in business to begin with. In the second year, like Wally had mentioned, I converted 5 of those 15 interns into employees. But beyond that, the wait list to be an intern for my publishing company grew to over 100 applicants wanting to intern. So picture this. Imagine in your own business, you have 100 people in your inbox at any notice asking you to come work for you for free. What would that be like for you? What would implementing a new sales strategy, what would being a new social media thing, a new graphics thing, what would that look like if you had such a pool of qualified, talented people at any given notice, wanting to help and support you? And so that was what I was able to create, and I'm going to share with you exactly how I was able to do that. So some of you might be listening, what is an intern exactly? So an intern is a college student or recent graduate, really age doesn't matter, that wants to trade their time for knowledge and expertise. And it's really just as simple as that. And so an intern is someone wanting to give their time and their skill set in terms for experience. So what exactly can interns do for you? Like Wally mentioned, he said that he had this intern, he was playing guitar and he was goofing off. And so there's so many different ways that interns can come into your picture, but specifically looking at what can they provide for you. So I wanted to pull a screenshot, of just a few different areas I had used interns in my business and how I still use interns. So if you're listening right now and design and graphics are something you are just stopped in terms of making it happen in your business, I've got good news for you. You've come to the right place. So this is just a screenshot from an email from, a few interns that have applied, and they've shared with me here. It's a pleasure to submit my resume for your consideration and design intern. I bring experience in illustration, design, and web programming. So this person here, qualified applicant, this isn't just some college student figuring out knowledge. This is someone that actually gets it, that has the skills and expertise to add value to your business so that you're not spending a lot of time training them. Your time is valuable and you don't need to take on other people to make your time even more limited. Other areas of your business, content. This was the biggest area with my publishing company is I put up an ad for a blogger internship. This person writes experience in writing, editing, publishing, confident they can be an asset to the company. Social media. How many of you listening there have heard social media is great and you just haven't had the time or resources or really even know how to do social media? So what's great about this is that so many college students, recent graduates, are born with social media all the time. And so if you're listening here and you don't even know where to begin, whether it's Facebook or Pinterest or YouTube, what's really great is a lot of these interns are coming with this body of knowledge and they can get these things started for you before you even bring them on as interns. And so I'll share a little bit more about with that a little bit later this evening. But once again, huge area of business. Finance, another great area as well. Administration, this was probably my favorite area to outsource. I personally hate Excel spreadsheets. I am not detail-oriented. So when I got this email that came in saying, I'm extremely detail-oriented, fast learner, would love my opportunity to prove my skills, for me, that was amazing to see that because I was able to actually delegate the things that I just wasn't effective at and the things I frankly just didn't like, so that I could focus on what I actually did like and allow me to scale and grow faster. So instead of working 16+ hour days, I got to be really focused on what mattered and what was important. So I'll share with you exactly how to go about doing that. And these areas here are just the tip of the iceberg. Really, interns can be used in so many different facets around your business. So I wanted to pull just a few examples here. This was an intern, Mary Martin, that came to work for me, and I'll share a little bit more about her later. But this is an intern before she was even hired or given the opportunity, just an interview. She says, thank you so much for taking time out of the day to talk to me. Just to be considered is truly an honor. And even if she doesn't get it, good luck on finding the perfect candidate. Thanks so much for your opportunity. So imagine getting an email like this of someone that you've just interviewed giving you so much appreciation. When you've hired someone to work in different positions in your company, for those of you that do have businesses, have you had candidates follow up with such intention and with such desire and ease to want to come work with you? That kind of environment creates something for you in your business that instead of you having to turn it on and rally the troops, having people that are so bought in on you and your vision before you even get started really allows for a different kind of creation to exist in the workplace. And so I'll share a little bit more about that later. Another example of that, Megan Kelly here also shares, with one of my interviewers, such a great interview, looks forward to hearing back. And she even writes here, she sent this twice. She figures better be safe than sorry. So these are people with persistent follow-up. So if you are having to chase people to get things done in your business, you can stop right now. There is no need to be hunting people down to make things happen. There are a body of people eager and hungry to be a part of that, to take stuff off your plate. And, these are just, few examples. And these interns, Megan, Kelly, Mary, Martin, they're not unique, and it's very accessible for you to have those in your business as well. So some of the results that I have created. So I want to share with you, a woman named Erin. So Erin here, was a mom, she's got 3 children and really wanted to branch into the world of entrepreneurship. Before I started working with Erin came to me, was working 16 hours a day, doing everything in her business. So for those of you listening out there that, are parents, that have children, that are trying to multitask an array of different things, this was Erin. You are totally in the right place here. And after working with Erin, using this system to find interns, she was able to triple her business in 3 months. So if you're listening tonight and you would be able to triple your business in 3 months, what would that make available for you? What would that give you freedom to do? Would you take that trip with your family that you've always been wanting to do? Would you go ahead and buy that thing that you've been wanting to buy? Would you go on that ski vacation? What would it give you freedom to do? Or would it just let you sleep easier at night because you knew that you had extra money in your savings accounts? These are the kind of results that are available quickly, instantly. And after tonight, you can start implementing those things right away into your business. Another example that I want to share is Hollis. And Hollis shared that he found that interns often outperformed the highest paid employees with more drive and passion. So Hollis, really talented guy, had some experience running a few different businesses, and his biggest challenge was he found that before working with me that he was often having to devote so much time to developing people, training people, and having them quit that for him he just was like, I could just do it myself. So for those listening out there that are like, I'll just do it myself, it's more work to follow up with someone and to see it through, it's easier for me to do it, Hollis was exactly that guy. And what he found by loosening up some of that control was that these interns created this environment, this culture, where they actually outperformed the employees. So what happened in his business is that it became a challenge between employees and interns, and overall the whole company started to raise and grow. So how many of you listening out there would love for that result to happen? I know for myself, it's exhausting sometimes always having to be the driving force. So this system allows you to actually let other people do that for you so you can really step into what you love and what you enjoy. Another little thing here, thousands like Amanda, just another intern that I wanted to bring up for you, writing in this email, sharing how excited she is. And so I just bring this up here so that you can really see the genuine enthusiasm. So if you're listening and you're like, $100,000 of free labor, like, is that legal? Like, how does that work? This is real, genuine, authentic enthusiasm from these interns. And I get these emails that come in constantly like I shared. So I'm going to show you exactly how to access that pool. So you might be thinking at this point, why do all of these qualified people want to work for free? So think about it. Why do all these people with experience in Illustrator and design and accounting and all these people, why do they want to work for free? So this was a recent study done by College Board that reports that for just a moderate college budget, for a 2013-2014 academic year, was about $22,000. In an average one, moderate one is about $44,000. So for a 4-year degree, college students that are coming in are paying about $90,000 to $175,000 for their education. Yes, you have read that right. And for some of you that might have children in college, you might be nodding your head like, yes, I already know this, Jules. But for those of you that don't, $90,000 to $175,000 is what it costs just to get that piece of paper and that degree. But what's happening now is 80% of employers, according to Time Magazine, want new grads they've hired to have completed a formal internship. So what is happening is all of these students are paying tons of money, and then they're expecting to get a job as soon as they graduate, and then employers are saying, hey, you don't actually have the skill set to come work for us. Because what's happening is there's a gap in education recently that colleges and universities haven't fully caught up yet, where employers are saying, no, we want experience in social media. We want expertise here. We want expertise there. And frankly, college curriculum isn't providing that. So there's a huge gap of people that recognize this and need to go somewhere. They're literally looking for you. They're looking for me. They're looking for business owners like yourself to actually be able to get that experience to bridge that gap. So will you be a part of the solution? So I'm going to share with you here the 3 steps to the outsourcing success. I'm going to share you exactly what I've done in my business, the first year of my publishing company to scale it over $1 million. And then I'm also going to share with you what I use today in this strategy. So my 3-step process to outsourcing success. So if you're listening right now, go ahead and grab a pen and piece of paper. And this is going to be some of the meat and potatoes, if you will, that you'll actually be able to start taking this information and really applying it, going to work in your business this evening. So step 1, I'm going to share with you how to identify your stupid human trick. So yes, you're reading those words correctly on the page here. What is your stupid human trick? So your stupid human trick is the one thing that you are exceptionally good at. It is the one thing in your business that makes you the most money and the one thing in your business that makes you the most profit. So I'm going to share a little bit about that in a few moments. Step 2 is what's your value proposition? So I'm going to discover with you how to define what your value about and what you have to offer. So if you're listening and you're just like, I want to try internet, but I don't even know if I have a business, and why would someone want to come work with me? I was in your position too. All I had was a dream and I had a vision. And so if you are there in that boat, you will absolutely have something to offer for these interns. And step number 3, I'm going to teach you how to take them from intern to full-time employee. So what I was able to do was to take these interns, have them work for free for 6 to 9 months, bring them onto a work apprenticeship, and then eventually after a year bring them to employee. And one of the things that I noticed is they made the best employees, like lifetime employees that I've ever had using this model. And to date, 4 or 5 of my best employees started from intern and grew all the way up. So I'm going to share you exactly how to do that inside your business. So step number 1, identify your stupid human trick. So I want you to think for a moment about all of the things you do in your business each day. So there you are, you wake up in the morning, the alarm goes off. For some of you, you might silence that. For some of you, you might jump right out of bed. And as soon as you jump out of bed and as soon as you wake up, what are the thoughts that you start to have that come into your mind when you start thinking about your day and going to work? Do you think about all the calls you have to return, the emails? Do you think about that one contract you're waiting to close? Do you think about all of the different graphics or the different articles that have to be written? Just put yourself for a moment in the mindset of your business right when you wake up in the morning. And for some of you, that might be really easy. And for others of you, you might need to close your eyes. But as you're there, start to think about all of the things you do in your business. Do you write the content? Do you do the website stuff? Do you do the finances? Do you do the administration? Do you manage the employees? And as you're speculating on all of these different components that it takes to operate your business, I want you to start to speculate on the tasks you do that you absolutely hate. So on that piece of paper right now, I want you to write down the tasks in your business that you absolutely hate. So for me, like I said earlier, it was administration, Excel spreadsheets, anything detail-oriented. I am clear that that was not my strength. So on your piece of paper, that might be something administrative. It could be bookkeeping and accounting. It could be returning emails. Start to write those specific things down. And then as you're looking at all the things you hate doing, start to look at where do you most love to spend your time? Where are you most effective? And what is it that when you're doing it, it makes you the most money? So for me in my business, I found that when I was growing and developing people, that was what made me the most money. When I was spending my time into empowering other people around me, that is when my business grew, and that's when I was effective. For some of you listening, it might be your sales. When you are actually doing sales calls, that makes you the most money. For some of you, when you are doing strategic planning in your business, that makes you the most money. For others, it could be writing a really good article. So start to speculate on what's the thing that you do that you're the most effective at. And, you might have a few things that you're good at, but what's the one thing you're most effective at that makes you the most money? So that right there is your stupid human trick. So I want you to go ahead, and you might have a little list going on right there, and I want you to write that stupid human trick. And go ahead right now in the chat box, for those of you that are listening on here, just start to share what your stupid human trick is in the chat box so other people can get an idea of what it is that you're really, really good at. So we've got John right here that says article writing is his stupid human trick. Thank you, John, for sharing that. Amy here says that writing and that doing her graphics is her stupid human trick. Thank you, Amy, there. And so just start to really speculate, what is the thing that you're exceptionally good at that makes you the most money? So now that you know where you need to be focusing your time, get clear on all the other stuff you need to outsource. So if you're clear like I was that growing and developing is what I was most effective at, then all the other stuff that I had to do were areas that needed to go. So make a list right now of the top 5 tasks that you will now outsource, whether it's the marketing, the design, sales, admin, finances, whatever it is. Make a list of those top 5 tasks that you now want to outsource. So the key here with the stupid human trick is that you want to ideally be focusing 80% of your time there. So 80-20 rule. So 80% of your time doing what you're most effective at, and all of those other areas is where you'll start to outsource on. So if you could take away everything else and you just did that, what would that be worth in your company? So if you could just focus on article writing, or you could just focus on your marketing, or you could just focus on the structure and the visionary component, what would that be worth in your company? How many sales would you increase? But better that, what would that take for your bottom line? What freedom would that give you? What opportunity, peace of mind would you then have? So step number 2, define your value proposition. So I want you to think here, what do you have to offer to a potential intern? What will you be able to teach them? Like I said, for me, when I was first starting out, I was like, I don't have anything that I thought to teach them. And if you're in that boat and you just have an idea at this point, or even if you're a successful business owner, you absolutely do have stuff to offer. And so start to speculate, all the areas of your business like we just did before in that exercise, the marketing, the copywriting, all of those different things. And really look at what value will these potential interns get in for trading their time for your free labor. So right now, go ahead and write on your piece of paper the top 5 points. These will be the call to action bullets for finding your intern. So some of the different value adds is you might be able to teach people how to have a really effective sales call. You might be able to teach someone how to make a really good PowerPoint. You might be able to teach someone how to have a really good Facebook page. It doesn't matter what specifically you know or frankly what you don't know. Just write down the 5 things that you're clear, this is a hell yes for me, and these are the things that I can offer. So as you're listening here, you might be thinking, so where do these interns hang out? How do I find them? So interns today live on the internet. They submit coursework online, they read articles for classes, they have online support groups, they do everything on social media. And they are always looking for the next thing. And the thing about interns, college students, or recent graduates is they know, like I shared before, they need experience and they're looking for it. So these interns are actively hungry, looking for opportunities because they know that if they don't get the experience, they're not going to get the job and they're not going to get the next level. So where are they looking? They're looking on different social media sites, they're looking on Craigslist, they're looking on school career sites, job sites, etc. So these are just different places that you can start to play and dabble to find these people. And I've had a lot of people, in the past, like while I was sharing, Jules, I've tried looking for interns, and they put an ad up, and it's like a ghost town. They get no responses back. And they're like, Jules, how do you get, 30 replies back after one ad? And so a lot of it has to come with this exact formula that I'm sharing with you right now, is that they exist out there in this sea of people, and you just have to be targeted and clear on where to find them. So these are great places to start looking. So how do you exactly go and attract them? How do you put an ad up that gets the responses, that doesn't invoke the ghost town? How do you actually make this happen? So it all comes down to this 3-part system. So in step number 1, I'm going to show you how to write the perfect ad. So those 5 call to action bullet points that you had on the previous slide that we just shared about, start to look at what value the intern will get by working for you. So this is exactly what's going to make up the ad for you. You'll literally write in the ad, I'm going to teach you copywriting, I'm going to teach you how to write a great article, I'm going to teach you this, just 5 points. That right there shows a potential intern, hey, this is someone I want to come work for. It makes it easy and it makes it simple. So after you get the perfect ad, this next step in the process is how you make the perfect test. So this is my favorite part of the process, is that before you even interview people, get them on, it's all about making interns jump through hoops. So if you're listening there, put yourself in a time where you've had to jump through hoops to get to the next level, whether that was a promotion in your job, if you're looking to quit your job and you have a corporate job, or whether that was a big marathon you were training for, or whatever it was. What was that carrot in front of the stick that kept you going? That is the same mindset, the same mentality that these interns have, and they're so excited to keep jumping through hoops to get to the next level. So in step number 2, this is where you actually get to get free work done for you before you even bring them on board. So one of the tests that I had, for me, is I really wanted to set up a Facebook page. At the time, I didn't know exactly what Facebook marketing looked like. And so I put up a test for the interns. I said, okay, you've given me your application. Everyone can talk, but let's see what you can actually do. Go set up a Facebook page for me and get me, my first 10 fans. And so I literally had 5 different applications come in, and I had 5 stock Facebook page templates for me to then use and integrate for my business. So if you're listening right there and social media might be something you want to go to work on, imagine what this strategy will do for you. Being able to get work done in your business before even bringing them on board. Maybe you're listening and you've got a huge article or blog post that need to be sent out. Great test is have the interns, before they even come on, start giving these tests and start submitting samples for you. So you can start getting real work into your business before this even gets going. Because if you're anything like me or anything like you were in that picture, you just don't have the time to waste. You don't have the time to be interviewing and recruiting and making stuff possible. You need results, and you need results now. And so this is a great opportunity for you to start getting those before even going through this process. And in step number 3, interviewing and recruiting. So once you pick out the test that you like, select 3 people for a 15-minute interview, choose the one you like, and hire. Super simple, super easy, and allow yourself to let the system work for you so you're not trying to reinvent the wheel. Step number 3, how to go from intern to employee. So this right here is exactly what I do in my business to really get them hooked from the get-go. And what I do here is the getting started call that converts. So the first step, now that you've got the intern, you've taken them, they've submitted their application, you've got them doing a test for you, and then you've got them going and you've selected the interview, then this is exactly what I do to get them from intern to employee. So it's a 30-minute virtual face-to-face call. And why that's so important is that you really want to get that human-to-human interaction. We often get so numb to hearing people behind a computer screen. Even this evening, here I am talking to you, and most of you have never met me before. And so getting that face-to-face interaction gives that human connection. And I find by doing this step here, this is what allows the interns to really make that connection for you that gives them that lifetime benefit and that lifetime inspiration to want to stay with you 6, 9, 12 months working for free. So in step number 1 in this call, tap into the intern's why. So Simon Sinek has a really great TED Talk called The Golden Circle in Discovering Your Why. And so I'll have Wally go ahead and send that out before, once this session here with us concludes. But in this TED Talk specifically, it looks into what are the things that drive you and what are the things that keep you going. So Apple Computer, for example, most people don't buy Apple Computer because they want a computer. They buy Apple Computer because it's inventive, because it's top technology, because it represents a community. There's so much more that actually get people invested in why they're buying Apple. And so that specifically is that people buy from gut and instinct rather than from purpose. And so when you tap into the intern's why here, you start to focus on what exactly matters to them. For some people, it might be driven by money. For other people, they're driven by experience. And so this little step here allows you to actually get clear on what is it that drives them. In step number 2, looking in this call, what are the specific skills they want to learn? So when you're able to dive in with the interns on what do they want to learn, what do they want to grow, you might find that these interns are more resourced and more well-versed than you might even imagine. You know, I remember with Mary Martin, this one intern, for example, she first shared that she wanted to go and do copywriting. And as we got into it, it turned out she wanted to learn about social media. She wanted to learn about different strategies. So by knowing what she wanted to go, I was able to support her and essentially get more value and more results for me and my business. So how many of you listening right now need more results in your business? And this is a great way to find out what are the people on your team, what exactly can they bring that you might not even be aware of. You know, and lastly in this call, looking at what is their ideal outcome working with you. You know, what is it they exactly want to achieve? Because when you know what the carrot is in front of the stick, whether they want a letter of recommendation, whether they want to become a full-time employee, whatever it might be, you're able to get them motivated and you're able to keep them growing with you faster. So this is a simple system to guarantee their success. And as you're looking here and listening, you know, this last component of all this is remembering these interns, they come from a background, they come from a system. They're used to submitting stuff online. They're used to working virtually. They're used to having tasks and deadlines. So it makes it really easy for you to integrate this into your business without spending extra time. You know, like I said, I know your time is valuable and you've got a lot of stuff on your plate. And by following a simple system for success, this allows you to actually get them integrated while letting it automate itself. You know, so the last little thing I do with my interns is I set a time every week. You know, I set a time to keep them on track, to keep stuff going. So for me in my business, you know, I have one 30-minute call each week, and that's a progress update. So every Monday at 11, I know that I have the call. In the business, I have every Friday by 5, you know, for my article writing intern, my blogger, I expect a list of 10 headlines for the following week's topics. And every Monday of the following week, I have those 5 topics chosen. And then I know every Thursday to look out for the articles. So it's a really simple structure that allows the system to kind of work for itself. I don't have to worry about, hey, where are the articles? How do I ask for this? How do I make this happen? It allows it to run and allows it just to automate seamlessly. So the interns love being bought in on your big picture. Keep them jumping through hoops so they never hit their ceiling. You know, like I was talking about earlier in your life, what is it like when you hit their ceiling, you know, when you've hit a ceiling in an area of your life? So after you master this, where do you want to grow? Where do you want to learn? And this allows the interns to keep excelling and to keep thinking faster than 6 months, you know, past a year's worth of time. It allows them to keep focused on that big picture goal. So I want to bring up a few case studies here. You know, this is a case study with Mary Martin. And so Mary Martin was an intern of mine that, like I said, I put up for a blog writing position. And on this test, I had asked her here to share, this was a test I said, I wanted an article written for a podcast. So Mary writes a podcast, a healthy alternative to Netflix. You know, and in her writing here, she says, people have cravings for content in the same way they do for food. There is a deep rumbling urge to consume that which entertains, and when it arises, it's hard to ignore, such as cheese. So she goes on to share here, and then she says, a favorite flavor for late media-hungry Americans has been the delectable yet easy digestible podcast. So when I read this blog article, 1, I was able to use this immediately in my business, and 2, it showcases the kind of talent and humor you can find. And this was just a test, you know, step 2 that I shared about getting the interns actually working for you in your business. So a really great thing that I had here. And what was great about Mary is that once I brought her on board, not only did she write articles for me, you know, the next week she asked, how do I learn how to SEO optimize articles? So I taught her about that. You know, the week after she was like, how can I learn how to SEO optimize and link them to YouTube? And then I taught her about that. And there were some things that even I didn't know that she was able to teach me that made her grow. And now Mary Martin is the head of the editorial department. She now has 4 interns that work under her. But the best part about Mary Martin is that once she started working with me, I never had to train an intern again. So this is a very set it and forget it kind of model. And what's great about Mary is there are thousands of Marys out there just like her. That once you go through the process and bring an intern on board, she now takes over my whole content department. So for those of you looking on your list right now, the one thing that you hate the most, whether it's administrative or financing, What would that be like for you if you were able to know that department was completely handled? How much time would you then have to do things that you wanted to do? Would you go to that yoga class? Would you go to that extra dinner date with your partner? What would you be able to take on if just one area in your business was completely handled and outsourced? Another case study here, this is Christy O'Meara, graphics person. She ended up doing all of our logos for our different companies and some of our book covers. Same thing with Christy is that she was able to actually go in, she submitted some book covers just as a test and was able to grow and scale. And through Christy, she now manages the entire graphics department, has interns that work under her, and just submits stuff to me. It's very seamless, very automated. So Christy, just like Mary Martin, able to take over a whole nother area of your business so you can start focusing on things that you actually care about. So let's recap here. In step number 1, we looked at what your stupid human trick is. What is the one thing that you do that makes you the most money? The one thing that you are exceptionally good at. In step number 2, we looked at your value proposition. What you have to offer to trade these interns' time so that they give you this free labor. In step number 3, what it looks like to go from intern to dedicated full-time employee. It's simple. Get the interns to work for you for free. Then if they make money for you, you can invest in them. Have them make themselves so valuable you have no choice but to hire them. So that was one thing that I always said in my business. My interns would say, Jules, how will we know if we can get the opportunity after our internship, 6-9 months working for free to even come on board? And frankly, what I always tell them is make yourself so valuable you have no choice but to hire them. So how many of you out there, you take risks all the time? You bring someone on maybe $10, $12 an hour, maybe $20, $30, even $40,000 a year. And you start working with them, you invest the time, and frankly, they just don't produce the results. Do you get that money back? No, you don't get to just test drive, an employee. They start coming on, and it's an experiment, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. And for me, that was so frustrating, was having to go through that. And it takes time, and it's exhausting. And I used to be someone that was like, I'll just do it myself, I'll just handle everything myself because it's easier that way. But it doesn't have to be that way. With this model, you actually get to have someone come work with you for 6 to 9 months for free. And then if they make themselves so valuable and actually start making you money, then start paying them and then start actually investing in them. So it's a win-win opportunity. So when you leave this webinar, you've got a lot of great information from me, right? But if you haven't hired quality teams before, it can be a little overwhelming. So what exactly can you do about it? Is it okay if I show you the fast and easy way to make all of this happen? So I want to introduce to you the system that I've created, the Master Delegator Program. In this program, you're going to receive step-by-step instruction on how to implement the strategy right now, like tonight when you get off this webinar. I know those of you listening have piles of emails that need your attention, strategies that you need to make happen, and you don't have the resources to do them. That stops tonight. Tonight you are actually going to be able to start getting quality people working for you by next week. And the great thing about this program is that you will be able to scale faster, stop overwhelmed sooner, and keep more of the money and live the life you've always wanted. Why did you get into business to begin with? There's this conversation that entrepreneurship and owning a business sometimes can be hard, or that you have to be a workaholic to make it happen. Or if you don't work, 8, 10 hours a day, then you're not going to get results. And frankly, that just doesn't have to be the case. It's time for you to actually reinvent and come back to why you were so excited about this business to begin with, and allow you to take the stress off so that you can actually have time to do the things that you want to do. Whether it's that vacation, whether it's spending time with your kids, whether that's exercising, whatever that might be. So in this program, it consists of 8 recorded modules, 8 webinars, where I'm going to go through all the foundational elements of the program. I'm going to share with you the basics of outsourcing. I'm going to share with you the basics of how I've gone about and created this program. I'm going to share with you how to craft the perfect ad. I'm literally going to give you a template, plug and play. Insert your business here, write this out, and then submit it onto the site. I make it very, very simple for you because I want you to win. You know, I do this not because I want these different results. I do this because this was a really big pain to me. This is something I struggled with for years until I found something that worked. And frankly, there are too many people that are struggling in their business when you just don't have to be. This is a really seamless solution that frees you up, that's a win-win for interns coming on board, and also allows you to scale and grow and make the money and live a life you actually want. Now I'm going to share with you also in here how to set up those tests, how to get interns doing work for you in your business before you even hire them. I'm going to share with you how to shift the mindset so you can actually have $1 million mindset. You know, if you're listening here and you've been teetering on that edge of about, 200,000, 300,000, and you want to grow to that next level, in this mindset webinar that I do with you, you actually learn how to take the lid off and really start playing that bigger game. So if you want to run $1 million company, a $2 million company, this is going to be really valuable for you. And then I'm also going to share with you, how do you automate this? How do you find the Mary Martins? How do you find the Christy O'Mearas that take this business and run it for you and completely take over different departments of your business? Once you have those key players that come in, it's done, it's handled, and you get the peace of mind to do what you love. So the total value of these modules is $2,376. I'm also going to give you full support. So we're going to have 1 hour group Skype session to let you use this program live Q&A style. So you're actually going to be able to get in there with the trenches, and you and I together on the phone will be able to work through what's coming up for you. I am committed that you win. I am committed that you experience freedom in your business. You have been suffering for way too long. Or if you haven't been suffering, you've been thinking about growing for way too long, which just is another form of suffering, and it's a different way. So I am going to work through this on the phone with you one-on-one, and actually get in there and get the support that you need. You will also have 3 months email access. So any questions that you have going through this, whether it's Jules, hey, take a look at my ad template, or hey, Jules, can you help me, over here? Hey, Jules, can you help over there? I am a resource to you completely through this program, valued at $2,500. So I want to come back to Erin, just for a moment here. Erin's business tripled in 3 months. What would that be like for you if you tripled your business in 3 months? If you currently have a corporate job right now, or you're working from someone else, would you finally be able to quit that job? You have been talking about it long enough. It is time that you get some people and some support to give you the freedom to make those moves happen. Erin was able to do that in 3 months, and in this program, you'll learn exactly how to do that as well. Maybe you're Hollis here, and you're just tired of having employees that you have to motivate all the time, and you want to raise the bar. If you were able to have people that showed up with drive, passion, and purpose, how less exhausted would you feel when you go to sleep at night? Or how excited would you feel to wake up each morning in your business? I'm going to share with you 3 bonuses that are also available if you act today. And if you've already decided, hey, that you want to be a part of this program, I want to reward you with these awesome bonuses. So the first bonus, which I mentioned, is I'm going to give you my intern ad template. So you will get access to my custom template that literally converts in any industry. Like I shared, some of you might have even tried with interns. You might have put an ad up and you got no responses. And I'm going to show you the ad that I put up time and time again that gets hundreds of applications coming in to whatever industry. So with this ad template, literally you can go home off this webinar, and within an hour, you can go ahead and be finding interns in your business. Monday, you can have a solution. Friday, you can even have a solution tomorrow. This valued at $197. My second bonus is my 5-step training template. So I'm literally going to give you all the goods on how to take interns to full-time employees. So some of you listening there, you might not be someone whose stupid human trick is growing and developing people. And if that's the case, totally okay. I want to make this easy for you. It's a plug-and-play model. I want to make it so that you win, so that you can focus on your stupid human trick, whether it's sales or whether that's creating or articles or whatever it is. This training template is going to give you the exact model to do that, valued at $197. And the last bonus is I'm going to give you my intern contract template. You're literally going to get the template that I use to bring on interns for 6 to 9 months, to convert them to work apprentices, and then to hire them on to eventual employees. So I make it really simple for it to happen for you. So here's what you get. Like I said, you get the 8 webinars, the Q&A Skype session, 3 months of unlimited email access, the intern ad template, the 5-step training template, and the intern contract template. The total value of this, $7,967. Can you do this another way? Of course you can do this another way. You can go out and you can try to find your own interns. You know, like I was sharing, you can spend hours writing what you think is the perfect ad just to put it up in the wrong places and maybe only get a few unqualified applicants. Or you could do maybe what you've already done in the past. You can hire staff and risk, you know, $40,000, $15,000 a year salaries. And maybe sometimes these people that you bring on will provide value for you, but you don't actually get to let them show you what they can do. You don't actually get the full return on it. Or you can try outsourcing. You know, how many of you out there have tried outsourcing? You know, I've definitely worked with people in India before, and I've done with that kind of stuff. And if you've tried that model before, you know it's just a pain. You know, it's hard to find good people that don't speak English, and you're supposed to give these people directions to your most coveted secrets. Frankly, it's more than a headache than it's worth. Or even worse, you could do nothing at all. You can keep being a slave to your business, hoping that someday it will be different. You know, you can walk away from this webinar this evening and say, wow, that was good information. You know, I think I'll just figure this out next week. Next month it will happen in my business. Maybe I'll quit my job someday. But what is Einstein's definition of insanity? It's doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. It's time for you to change a variable. It's time for you to change a variable tonight. The fact is, there is no real comparison. And you won't pay that much today. So here's why I want to give you an amazing offer. One of the reasons is that I'm committed to your success, and I want your success story. You know, your success is my success. You know, I really feel, one, for these recent graduates that are spending all of this money and not being able to get jobs. And I also really feel for you as a business owner or emerging business owner that I was like that 2, 3 years, 4 years ago. And it's time that you stop being overwhelmed and killing yourself. Life can be simple, life can be fun and easy, and you don't have to do the things you hate because that's what you feel like you should do. There is another way, and there are people right now, this evening, waiting for you to find them to take stuff off your plate. And also as a massive thank you to Wally for inviting me to speak here today. And after our presentation, our webinar tonight, I'm going to at least double the price of this package. So the total value of this program, $7,376. But for the next 15 minutes, I'm going to offer you this program for $497 today only. So go right now to wallythewebguide.com/delegate. I believe in this program so much that I want to extend a 30-day risk-free trial to you. So I have put my blood, sweat, and tears into making this a strategy, and a strategy that I still, in my business today, works. You know, I've consulted big, you know, 6, 7-figure companies. I've started 6, 7-figure companies. I've done all different kinds of stuff, and the one thing that I always hold true is my formula with this intern model. So I believe in this program so much, the results that it's created for myself, for other people that I know, that I want to offer this to you for 30-day risk-free, so that you can go ahead and get the results, make the money of the program just by hiring one intern, and actually start getting some freedom so you can do what you love. 7, one time only, just for this evening, go to wallythewebguide.com/delegate. Once again, wallythewebguide.com/delegate. You know, I want to thank you so much for being here this evening and for sharing your time so generously. And Wally, thank you so much for having me. You know, I'd love to open up the floor if there are any questions that you want to help me facilitate. You know, if anyone has any questions that they want to ask about the program before we wrap up this evening.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jules. Really, really appreciate you sharing all this valuable information with everybody. Yeah,
Awesome.
I think everyone there, you know, just you guys see these transformations that can happen in your business here, and Jules was very generous to come on here pretty much at the last minute. You guys don't know that, but last minute and share all of this. You know, I've seen her put these systems into businesses. You know, I've seen what it did for Hollis's business. I've seen what it's done for the interns, and it's a really good win all around. So. You know, definitely go over there and go to wallythewebguy.com/delegate. We'll see you over there and take advantage of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Wally. And we have a few questions that came in here. We've got one from Mike that Mike asks, will this program be recorded? Will you have lifetime access to this? Mike, that's a great question that we've got here. Yes, all the modules are recorded. You will have lifetime access to it. So once you get inside that members area, that will be available to you. And it looks like we've got one more question here from Lisa. Lisa wants to know, can this model be used outside of the U.S.? Yes, Lisa, you can actually use this anywhere. I've been able to share this with a lot of people from Australia, from Europe, so really great as well. So I think that's all we have for questions at the moment. If you have any other questions, feel free just to shoot them in, and Wally, if they can send them over to you, and I'd be happy to answer those as well.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, thanks again, Jules. We really appreciate you making this special offer to the group here, and we'll see you guys over there at wallythewebguy.com/delegate.